Okay, I'm going to be going over H on your solving equations pyramid sum puzzle to get you started. And I'm also going to show you how to utilize the activity. That way you know that you're doing it right. So it's very, very important that you have a piece of paper that you're doing your work on. You're going to need to take an image of this paper and upload it to the assignment. This is going to be a good chunk of the point value is showing your work. That way we can help you where you need to be helped at. So I'm going to be writing down steps over here just as more like a notes thing. You don't necessarily have to have all of these steps written, but it will definitely help. So the very first step I'm going to write down is to distribute. And that's because I noticed parentheses. So I know that I'm going to be distributing first. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this elevator around my equal sign. And the reason why I do that is because in Algebra 1, you have equations, but you also have inequalities that you'll be dealing with later. And those are the types of problems that have like the greater than and less than signs. And so we like to draw this elevator just to keep it straight. So first I'm going to distribute. I don't have to distribute on this side because there are no parentheses over there. So I only need to be distributing on this side. The goal first is to simplify both sides of the elevator before you start moving stuff around. So let's do -7 times 2x. The x can just be a label that you bring down, and you do the -7 times 2, which is -14. And then you also do the -7 times -2. A very common error here is to not do the negative sign in front of the numbers. So be very careful with that. Signs always go in front of a number, so it has to be a part of the math that you do with that number. -7 times -2 is +14. I'm going to go ahead and bring this left side of the elevator down just to show you the rest of these steps. My next step would be to combine like terms. I would do this on each side of the elevator, one side at a time. So I would combine like terms on this side. I don't have anything I can put together though because I have an x and then I have a constant. Those don't match. So I look over here. Once again, I don't have any matches on this side. So I don't have any terms to combine. So I'm going to move on to my next step, which is inverse operations. I'm going to add or subtract terms. Now remember, terms include a coefficient and a variable or a constant. So there are only two terms on this side, and there are only two terms on this side. So what I like to do is move the term with the letter to the left, and then move the term with that's just a constant to the right. So first I'm going to move the term with the letter to the left. In order to do that, I got to get rid of it on the right. To get rid of it, I have to do its inverse. So instead of negative, I go positive. That will get rid of it on this side. But what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And you can only do it with a like term. So that means I can't put plus 14x underneath the 40. It doesn't have an x. I got to put it over here. So now I have 18x minus 40. And on this side, I just have a 14. Now let's get rid of our constant on the left. To get rid of the constant that's on the left, I have to do its inverse. So I'm going to add 40 to both sides. That gives me 54 on this side and 18x on this side. Now, to get rid of a coefficient in order to isolate the x, it's a lot of vocab right there. So in order to isolate the x, you have to divide the coefficient. because right now it's being multiplied. Even though it doesn't have a multiplication symbol in there, if it's right next to the letter, it's being multiplied. So I'm going to divide it off of both sides, and that's going to leave me with x. 54 divided by 18 would give you 3. Now, last step is to bring that sign down the elevator. So x equals 3. So the next piece is, what do we do with that answer? Well, this was H. So we figured out that for card H, x was 3. So I'm going to put a 3 onto that card. Then I'm going to take that card and I'm going to put it on top of this piece right here. Now notice that I copied it from here. So copy. And then I pasted it here. And what didn't come with it was that 3. So if I go to the 3 and I highlight it, then I can copy that and I can put it here. It pasted a little wonky, that's okay. We'll just shrink it and then move it back to where it needs to go. The next problem that I'm going to show you is problem D. The first thing that I'm going to do is write that problem down. And then I'm going to follow the steps the same as before around that elevator that we drew on the last one. So first we're going to distribute. Draw your rainbow. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times positive 3 is positive 18. On each side, I just brought down everything that I haven't worked with yet. And so now I can work with the elevator one side at a time. So looking at just this right side, I do notice that I have terms that I can combine. 6x and 6x, which makes 12x. This 18, it doesn't have a match on this side, so I just bring it down. Then I'm going to look at this left side. I don't have any matches on this left side, so I'm just going to bring both of those terms down. 8x is a term, -6 is a term. Now I'm going to work the inverse operations. First, I'm going to move all of my variables to the left by doing the inverse. The inverse of positive 12 is -12 with your x, otherwise you won't be eliminating the entire term. Remember that the coefficient and the variable together make up the entire term. Therefore, you can't just subtract off the 12. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other, and you must do it to its like term, which means I can't do minus 12x with the 6, because those don't match. 8x minus 12x would give you -4x, and I just brought everything else down that I haven't done any math with. Now I'm going to move my constants over to the right. So I'm not going to mess with this term that has a variable. I'm only going to move the constant. I'm still going to do it by doing inverse. I'm going to add 6. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. 18 plus 6, 24. Bring down your other term. And then our last step is to do the inverse of this term. This term has a coefficient and a variable, which means it's being multiplied. Well, anytime you have a coefficient and a variable, the only way to isolate the variable is to divide. I know this is a -4, and so you would be tempted to put +4, but remember, it's attached to its variable. That's what makes it a complete term. So we're going to have to do the inverse, which is division by -4. Then, let me extend this elevator. I have isolated the variable. 24 divided by -4 is -6. Bring that equal sign all the way down, and you've solved this problem. Now that we have solved problem D, I'm going to take that card and I'm going to put it in its correct place. So copy and then paste it onto this screen. Oh, look at that. This time the red copied over. And our answer was x equals -6, so I'm going to put -6 right here. So how do you know what to put in this spot? Well, the one that you put in this spot is going to equal the sum of 3 and -6. So whatever you put here, the answer has to be whatever 3 plus -6 is, which is -3. And so whatever you put in this next box has to be the sum of -6 and the answer to f. And we don't know what that is yet because first we have to get the answer to f. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way down. So this one would be the sum of these two boxes until you get down to the bottom rectangle. And then don't forget, you do need to submit your work that's on paper so that way you can get your credit. If you need any help, don't forget to stop in at our office hours, and we are happy to help you.